I knew it. I shouldn't have been invited tonight. You should have included me out. Because I'm not very good at polite religion, at trimming the red letters into needlepoint pillows and calling it faith. I'm only slightly better at passing the plate than I am at passing judgment. And that, my friends, is precisely why I'm here. Let's twist that Bible upside down but gently, with love, so we can read what spills out when the ink runs with spirit instead of custom. Judge not, that ye be not judged, he said. Do you hear a table manners whisper there? Or do you hear a royal decree, the shutting down of a counterfeit court? I can already feel humanhood clearing its throat, adjusting its spectacles, polishing the little badge that says Deputy of Reality, ready to enforce good and evil with tiny citations. But the Christ did not hand you a gavel. He took it away. With what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again, is not a superstition for the timid. It is operational authority for the awakened. It says, stop running the unsanctioned courtroom of your opinions. Vacate the bench you built out of fear and preference. End the charade. Judge not as a power move there. I said it because it ends the self-appointed jurisdiction of humanhood and returns you to the only jurisdiction that heals, the government of God whose name is love. Now, before you accuse me, you see how quickly it starts of preaching passivity? Hear this. I am not offering you a hammock. I am handing you a key. Non-judgment is not folding your arms and watching Rome burn while you hum a hymn. Non-judgment is laying down the weapon that keeps you blind, so that vision can report for duty. It is the cold-blooded outward composure that refuses to inflame the scene, paired with the overheated inward love that floods it with presence. He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone. Do you think that was a lesson in social nicety or the disabling of a death machine? One sentence, and the stone slid from their human fingers like old permission suddenly expired. Let me tease you with what's coming, because you'll want to know where we are going if you are to walk with me instead of debating me under your breath. We are going to find the hidden throne behind our opinions and topple it not with argument but with relinquishment. We are going to discover that judgment is the breath of humanhood, and that to die daily to the personal self is to exhale that breath and inhale the God self-seeing. We will not grow limp. We will grow lucid. We will not become doormats. We will become doorways. Do you think the God self of you needs your verdicts to keep the planets whirling, to keep your neighbor upright, to keep your child safe? Or might it be that your verdicts are the very fog that obscures the guidance you say you cannot hear? I confess, I have sat in my own courtroom and sentenced the world quietly, while smiling, and then wondered why no power flowed when I prayed. Who was praying? The prosecutor. And the prosecutor cannot heal because his hands are full of transcripts, not grace. So, tonight we begin as courtroom janitors. We sweep, we clean, we turn off the lights of accusation and wait. Ah, yes. Wait until the still, small voice is not still and not small, but authoritative. That voice does not condemn, it clarifies. It does not shame, it shows. It does not punish, it points. Forgive 70 times 7. Not because we are nice, but because forgiveness erases the false files and opens the channel through which guidance rushes like living water. I promise you this arc. We will trade verdicts for vision, opinion for instruction, heat for light. We will learn boundaries without a gavel, compassion without depletion, and action that is accurate because it is assigned. But we start here with a scandalous simplicity that empties the human bench. Judge not as etiquette, but as authority, not as abdication, but as enthronement of the one who alone sees truly, and in that seeing guides us into an effective love that never fails. So let us be plain, and if plainness sounds like mischief on my tongue, forgive me. I was born with a small drummer inside who beats when I say the obvious. What then did the Christ ban? Not discernment. Do not panic. If you cannot tell a red light from a green one, we will have a different meeting later, perhaps with a municipal judge. The Master did not call us to blindness. He called us to step down from a seat we never qualified for, the seat of condemning persons, of assigning destinies, of pretending to be providence with a small p. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven, is not a needlepoint suggestion. It is a notice of eviction served to the pretender who moved into God's chambers without a key. Do you think it is the God self of us that needs to label, exile, and punish? Do you think the infinite life, which causes stars to mind themselves and sparrows to find crumbs, is wringing divine hands, asking for our help in pinning a name tag on a sinner? Do you think the God self is drafting life sentences in our heads? She is always manipulative. He will never change. Those people are beyond hope, and then stamping them with eternity. Or might it be that only humanhood, frightened and hungry for control, scribbles those memos and calls it wisdom? Listen to the tone of the Christ. Yea, judge after the flesh. I judge no man. And when he must speak, he adds, my judgment is just, because I seek not mine own will, but the will of the Father. That is jurisdiction. That is authorization. Not the chattering of our opinions, but the rare speech that proceeds from the light itself. When he stood before the woman dragged into daylight with her sins like laundry, he did not host a panel discussion on morality. He said, neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. Do you catch the band there? He bars condemnation of the person and releases instruction for the path. He withholds the gavel and grants guidance. He does not enthrone her mistake. He restores her mission. Humanhood whispers, but if we do not judge, chaos will spill across the carpet, and who will clean it? Do you think the God self of you was promoted by fear? The Christ bans us not from clarity, but from impersonating the source of clarity. He bars us from welding our preferences to people's identities and then calling the result discernment. He forbids the forging of verdicts that harden the clay of souls before the potter is finished shaping. He outlaws the theater where we play God to feel safe, and invites us to die daily to that actor, to let the curtain fall on that role. Opinion is cheap. Oh, we mint it like confetti. Jurisdiction is holy. I can have 1,000 opinions before breakfast, and none of them add a cubit to my stature. None of them heal a child. None of them restore a marriage. But the moment I step down from the bench, the moment I let the inner prosecutor resign and take his briefcase of transcripts with him, a different government appears. The government shall be upon his shoulder. Not mine, not yours. And in that government, clarity arrives without cruelty. Action arises without animus. Boundaries form without blame. Let us make this practical. Right here, in the secret factory where we manufacture verdicts, the mind, the master's ban reaches into the moment we begin to write a person's obituary while they are still breathing in front of us, the instant we seal their possibilities to fit our comfort. The ban says, hold your tongue until love speaks. Hold your ink until light dictates. Do not staple eternity to a passing frame. If you must see as an instrument. Father, how are you seeing this one? If you must speak, Speak as an echo, not my will, but thine. If you must act, act as one who has no badge to flash, only a towel to tie around the waist. So, step down, give the robe back to wardrobe. It never fit you. Return the little badge that says Deputy of Reality to the lost and found where humanhood keeps its toys. Christ banned the private bench, the secret throne behind our opinions. He did not strip us of sight. He stripped us of supremacy. And in the vacancy where our verdict used to sit, the God self stands. And when that sees, it heals. When that speaks, it sends. When that guides, it never misses. If you want to know how deep the band goes, listen to the upgrade notice that runs straight through the red letters like a new current under an old riverbed. Ye have heard that it hath been said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you, resist not evil. Whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also. Love your enemies. Pray for them which despitefully use you. Do you hear politeness there? Or do you hear a system swap uninstalling retaliation, installing guidance? Then came Peter. Lord, how oft shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Till 7 times? And the Master, with the patience of heaven and the humor of a carpenter who knows how to sand down splinters, I say, not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. That isn't math. That is authority revoking our license to met out sentences and issuing a passport to a country called grace. Now, I know the old operating system. I ran it long enough to get viruses of righteousness and malware of moral superiority. It looks principled. You hit me, I tally. You fail me, I close the book. I'm the treasurer of injuries and the auditor of sins. Do you think the God self of us is keeping ledgers like that? Do you imagine infinite love sitting with a green visor, adding columns of resentments and stamping red ink on souls? Or is that humanhood again, hungry to protect its tender little empire with a gavel disguised as justice? Here is a practice so shockingly simple it will embarrass your sophistication. Carry the red letter New Testament. Yes, the little one that can disappear in a pocket or a purse, the kind you can slip open in the grocery line or on the midnight bus. Don't read it as a museum brochure. Read it as your new manual. Be ye therefore merciful, as your Father also is merciful. Let that sentence stand in the door of your mind like a sentinel, and do not let the old bouncer named retaliation back in. The letter that kills is not the Torah. It is any sentence we refuse to let breathe. The letter killeth, but the Spirit giveth life. Take the red letters into your lungs, not onto your refrigerator, and then twist them. Oh, yes. I said twist until they are your speech, not your quotation. Rephrase them, not to tame them, but to let them bite you where you live. Judge not becomes today, I resign from the bench. I will not issue a single life sentence from my head. Turn the other cheek becomes. I refuse to furnish this scene with more violence. I will face it with another angle of light. Forgive 70 times 7 becomes. I will not set an end date on mercy. I will let love count for me. Love your enemies becomes. I will not manufacture an other to practice outrage upon. I will practice seeing Christ where my habits saw a threat. Stop quoting, start metabolizing. Don't pin them on a corkboard. Pin them on your reflexes until your reflexes blink first and surrender. Let me give you what looks like a trivial parable, because the great ones hide in parking lots, not only in parables with vineyards, A gentleman, let's call him Uncle Leo, because every family has one backs into your car and pretends not to notice. The old program wakes immediately. Calculate fault. Announce verdict. Prepare enforcement. You feel the robe sliding over your shoulders, but the red letters pipe up from your pocket like an inconvenient ringtone. What measure ye meet? And you hush them. They ring again. Forgive 70 times 7. So you walk to Uncle Leo, not with a sermon, but with an unarmed face. Leo, are you all right? Let's have a look. Do you see? You did not dismiss reality. You dismissed retaliation's jurisdiction. Your words become instruments, not indictments. And maybe he still grumbles. Maybe he blusters, but the gavel has not fallen, and guidance has room to speak. Exchange insurance, call a tow, arrange a ride, offer a prayer, clarity without cruelty, action without animus. This is the swap. From justice as retribution, which breeds verdicts and rehearses injury, to guidance as grace, which hears the next right thing from the one who sees the whole. The Mosaic line taught a wild tribe not to murder the village for a goat. Thank God for it. The Christ line teaches a waking heart to lay down even the scaled fairness of payback, and in that laying down to receive assignment. My sheep hear my voice, and they follow me. Not my judges render opinions, my sheep hear. When the red letters move from your lips into your limbs, the upgrade is complete. No longer ruled by the reflex to punish, you are led by the presence that knows what heals. Now let's do the unglamorous work of diagnosis, because if we don't find where the leak lives, we will throw towels on the floor forever and call it ministry. Humanhood, what is it? Not a wardrobe, not a genome, not even the biography with its glittering tragedies and commendations. Humanhood is the felt sense of selfhood apart from God, the lonely actor who must keep the plot moving or the curtain will drop. It lives by contrast, me against you, ours against theirs, safe against dangerous. It breathes enemies and exhales verdicts. It survives by scorekeeping because without a running tally of better than and worse than, it cannot say who it is at breakfast. Judgment, then, is its oxygen. Watch how it works. The economy is simple and cruel. Every time I judge, I buy a small hit of superiority on credit, and the price is blindness, compounded hourly. I spend a penny of condemnation and lose $1 of vision. Do you think it is the God self of us that needs this little drug? Do you imagine reality with a capital R leaning over the fence, gossiping about the neighbors to feel alive? Do you think infinite love refreshes itself by declaring that one lazy, that one crooked, those hopeless? No one. Only the personal self, shivering without a center, must pin a villain to the dartboard and call it clarity. Even our noble-looking versions betray the same mathematics. I'm only judging the act, we say, while secretly stapling the act to the actor and filing it under permanent record. Why? Because if I do not hold someone smaller, darker, wronger than me, my little throne tips. The personal self is a paper crown. It lasts only as long as comparison holds. So it feeds on distinctions the way a fire feeds on air. Ye judge after the flesh, said the master, after appearances, after contrasts, after the measurements that keep our identities intact. But he added the sentence, humanhood cannot speak without disappearing. I judge no man. There ends the little empire. Let me take you into a common laboratory where this creature thrives. The checkout line. A woman ahead of you produces a stack of coupons that would make a CPA weep. Humanhood perks up, adjusts its glasses, and begins a sermon on sloth, thrift, and civilization's decline. There it is, the tiny high. I am the efficient one, the considerate one, the real adult. 5 seconds of righteousness paid for by 5 minutes of blindness to the Christ wealth in her, to the whisper that might have said, offer to help, or breathe and bless, or switch lanes without drama. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Not blessed are the quick in line, the correct in categories, the victorious in arguments. Pure in heart, unmixed by verdict, sees. The personal self does not trust that kind of seeing because it isn't powered by fear. The personal self is powered by thought, about threat. Take no thought for your life, says Jesus, and humanhood says, impossible. I live by thought. If I stop judging, how will I be safe? How will I be me? There you have the survival panic. If it ceases to judge, it fears suffocation. To die daily, then, is not morbid. It is respiratory therapy. Every withheld verdict is a loosening of the mask that makes noise but delivers no oxygen. Every pause in opinion is a breath of another, the one life that sees without condemning, guides without shaming, corrects without cursing. Make no mistake, judgment can organize a day. It cannot illuminate. It can align a tribe. It cannot heal a soul. It can tighten your circle. It cannot widen your heart to the size of God's. In the short run, judgment purchases a fence. In the long run, it builds a prison whose bars are the very names we have nailed to people and to ourselves. He that findeth his life shall lose it, and he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it. Lose which life? The judging life, the kept alive by contrast identity. And find which? The God self life that needs no opponent to feel real, no scapegoat to feel saved. So I ask you once more, not to scold but to free. Do you think it is the God self of us that needs a villain to feel real? Do you think love requires enemies to do its work? No one. No one. Only humanhood. Let it pant if it must. Don't hand it your lungs. Let it stage its courtroom. Don't sit on the bench. Step back 1 inch inside and notice the breathing change when you refuse a verdict there. In that small surrender, a wind begins to blow that did not come from your opinions. That wind is the language of God. Judgment is the breath of humanhood. Let it exhale. Then wait. Listen. The next section. We will hand the inner prosecutor his resignation papers and watch the room fill with air. All right, let's do the paperwork. We have promised a resignation. Let us accept it, sign it, and walk the dear fellow to the door without severance pay. I die daily, wrote Paul, not to scare us, but to offer the only anesthesia that really works. Die to what? To the part of us that prosecutes, posts sentences, and calls that safety. It is a quiet death, repeated like breathing, and it does not diminish your life. It frees it from the oxygen thief. Be still and know that I am God. Be still is the dying. Know is the seeing that follows. You cannot know while clutching the gavel. Your fingers are too busy shaping the world into your likeness. Here is the simple method, crude as a carpenter's bench and holy as an altar. First, pause. You feel it, don't you? The heat in the hand that reaches for the gavel. The little argument gathering syllables behind the teeth. The heart preparing a closing statement. Pause. Second, feel. Name the sensation, the tightening, the racing, the old ache of I must be right or I will disappear. Third, drop, literally, unclench your palm. If you must, press your thumb to your forefinger and then let them part as if a small wooden mallet fell through. Fourth, convert. Take the charge sheet you had begun to write. She always, he never, I can't believe, and lay it on the altar of beholding. Father, show me thy child here. Do not decorate the altar with excuses. Leave it plain. Neither do I condemn thee. Hear it in your own chest first. Now look again, but not to label, to witness. Let thine eye be single, said the Master, and thy whole body shall be full of light. Single eye, not split into judge and judged. Do you think it is the God self of us that needs a file on everyone to feel safe? Do you think love requires a rap sheet to be wise? No one. No one. Only the personal self gasps without its folders. Try a small experiment. Walk into the next conversation unarmed. No case to prove. No memory to weaponize. No prophecy of their next mistake peeled and ready. Without your charge sheet, who are you with? Your neighbor. A witness, not a warden. A listener, not a stenographer of sins. And with yourself, without the docket of your own failures pinned to your chest, who are you? Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. Clean, not because you edited your past, but because you stopped adjudicating it and let mercy keep time. This dying is not theatrical. Please do not moan into your tea about your noble sacrifice. That is still the prosecutor giving a press conference. It is ordinary and relentless. Morning, before the mind opens its courthouse, say, not my will, but thine be done. Noon, when the heat rises in the palm, drop the gavel and whisper, Father, how do you see? Night. Review the day lightly, not to punish, but to notice where you traded sentence for sight. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, not as a bargain, but as the same wind passing through both directions. And yes, sometimes the prosecutor will sneak back in with a mustache and a clipboard. He will call himself wisdom or boundaries or righteous anger. Listen to his tone. Is it accusing? The Christ has a way with accusations. The accuser of our brethren is cast down. If it condemns, it is not your guidance. If it clarifies, it may be. The difference is temperature. Accusation burns to injure. Guidance warms to reveal. Be outwardly cold-blooded. Do not inflame the room. Be inwardly overheated with love for God and man. Let compassion melt your categories while it steadies your hand. You will ask, but if I do not sentence, will I not be fooled? Hear the paradox. You have been fooled precisely by sentencing, by sealing people into the last frame you took of them. Die to that. Watch what happens when you refuse to staple eternity to a moment. Space opens a silence courtroom, becomes a listening sanctuary, and in that space, the God self sees. A word comes that is not yours. An instruction arrives that has no edge. A boundary becomes obvious without bile. My sheep hear my voice. They do not craft verdicts. They receive assignments. So let the inner prosecutor resign without fanfare. Offer him a kind handshake, thank him for trying to keep a frightened world in order, and show him the door labeled peace. Then stand in the cleared air and do nothing for a breath. Just behold. Judge not is not a moral pose. It is the extinction of a noise so that vision can speak. Die daily there, and the room fills with air. Guidance moves in like light through an open shade. And in that light, you will see not the case against your brother, not the case against yourself, but the Christ, uncondemned in sending you, not to punish, but to heal. Now that the gavel is silent, what flows is not a puddle of sentiment, but a river with banks. Love, oh yes, I will use that word, but not the kind that leaks around ankles and calls itself compassion because it got our socks wet. God is love, and God is no respecter of persons. Therefore, divine love is impersonal, not cold, not distant, but unhooked from the tug-of-war of my feelings about your feelings. Charity never faileth, not because it sobs the loudest, but because it beholds the Christ where humanhood sees a case. Emotional pity is a verdict in disguise. You poor thing, it whispers, and pins a label on a forehead. Impersonal love refuses both pins and labels. It neither condemns nor enables. It stands before the woman, the man, the child, and says with the master, neither do I condemn thee. And with the same breath, go and sin no more. It will not make a pet of your pain, nor a throne for your failure. It will behold your light until you remember it. Do you think it is the God self of us that must trade tears for tears and heat for heat in order to care? Do you think infinite love must be yanked around by every mood in the room to be present? No one, no one. Only humanhood believes that to love is to leak. The Christ love is insulated, outwardly cold-blooded, to drama, steady, unflappable, not 1 degree hotter because the scene is shouting. Inwardly overheated for God and man, fire in the bones for the reality of this one, this very one, as God's own insulation. Does not block the current. It carries it cleanly. Picture an electrician. He does not grab the wire with bare hands to prove he cares. He uses insulation so the power can do its work without frying the servant. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. The world gives empathy like a contagion. Christ gives peace like a climate. Let's take this to the living room, to the hallway, to the office where the faces are not allegories but neighbors. A friend calls, voice broken. The diagnosis came back, the son relapsed, the job dissolved. The personal self rushes with tissues and a tiny crown. I will rescue you with my feelings, and both of you go under. Impersonal love breathes once, silently. Father, how do you see? It listens for the sentence that clarifies, rather than the speech that dazzles. It may say nothing, presence can be a full meal. It may speak a single word, I am here. It may ask a question that turns on a light. It will not wring hands. It will not sign you up for helplessness. Let not your heart be troubled, not because trouble is denied, but because guidance is allowed. Another scene. The colleague arrives in triumph, a costume of success so shiny you can see your envy in it. Humanhood judges or fawns. Impersonal love does neither. It does not prick the balloon. It does not kiss the ring. It beholds the Christ untouched by peaks and valleys and then acts as instructed, congratulate if led, warn if led, ignore if led, but never as a slave to the costume. Or the one on the corner holds a sign, and your stomach argues doctrine. Pity throws coins to relieve its guilt. Judgment looks away to preserve its purity. Impersonal love looks straight through the costume and may give, may not give, but always blesses without making a picture permanent. Silver and gold have I none, but such as I have give I thee. Sometimes that such as I have is money. Sometimes it is a look that returns a man to himself. Hear this clearly. Pity drains because it tries to carry what only God can carry. Impersonal love does not carry. It conducts. It is a conduit, not a mule. Emotional interchange ties two personal selves together and calls it bonding. Then both arrive depleted and secretly resentful. Impersonal love keeps the circuit with God closed so the light moves through without shorting. Be ye therefore merciful, as your Father also is merciful. The Father's mercy is not an ache, it is an atmosphere. Stand in it, offer it, do not splash it. And this is how non-judgment becomes your insulation. Every time you refuse to name a person by a problem, the rubber goes back on the wire. Every time you behold the Christ instead of the costume of failure or of fame, you thicken the insulation and the clarity sharpens. You will find you can sit in rooms that used to drown you and remain available. Simple, exact. You will seem, to excitable eyes, a bit cold-blooded. Accept the rumor. Outwardly calm keeps the instruments from fogging. Inwardly overheated keeps the heart from hardening. Our heart must burn with joy for the Christ, not yearn with sympathy for the poor, which only multiplies poverty by agreement. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Pure means unmixed, no judgment stirred into the cup, no pity curdling the cream, only love, uncondemning, unenabling, unexhausted, seeing God, and serving clean. Now let us go to the carpenter's joke that has outlived 1,000 sermons, because we keep missing the punchline. Why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own? Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly. You hear splinters and lumber. I hear a shop foreman who knows his wood and knows our eyes. The master is not teasing us about bad optics. He is exposing the thing that blinds us while we are busy fixing the world. The beam is not your temper, not your clumsiness, not even last Tuesday's mistake. The beam is judgmental selfhood, this defended, deputized, verdict-issuing self we have been trying to keep alive. Keep it alive, and you will not see. Remove it, and then, do you hear the sequence? Then shalt thou see clearly. Do you think it is the God self of us that walks around like a traveling optometrist, poking at everyone's corneas with doctrines? Do you think infinite love requires your tweezers to make your brother presentable to God? No one. No one. Only humanhood, breathless without a case to try, imagines that its job is to improve specs. The Christ gives us the operating order. First lay down the beam, this personal jurisdiction that clouds the eye, and only then will sight return. Judgment fogs the lens. Surrender clears it. Oh, this is where we have earned our ironies. The healer, blinded by the heat of his own sentence, fumbles at a patient. The parent, half choking on worry, tries to train a child with a beam in both eyes. The activist, inwardly raging at the very soul she hopes to free, marches in a fog and calls it weather. Physician, heal thyself, not as a rebuke, but as a sequence. Take the beam first. Dear doctor, die daily to the inner prosecutor we just dismissed, and then the room will come into focus. Let thine eye be single, not split between the Christ and the costume, not divided between love's beholding and humanhood's verdict. Single-eyed, pure heart, clear sight. There is no other math. Now, how does a beam look inside? It looks like urgency to fix her, to warn him, to save them, urgency that burns hotter than the love it pretends to serve. It looks like rehearsed speeches and ready categories. It feels like a hand that will not release the gavel because without sentencing someone, I fear I will dissolve. The master does not say, negotiate with the beam. He says, first, cast it out. Drop the gavel. Surrender the little badge. Let go of the version of you that is authorized by fear. and then hear that word again. Then something happens that you cannot brute force into being. Sight arrives. Guidance replaces guesswork. You don't have to fix anyone. You behold reality, and reality starts doing its own work. Try it in the smallest theater, because God loves to premiere in kitchens and cars. You notice a speck, a habit in your partner's speech that trips your wires, a colleague's oversight that splashes your shoes. The old program rises. Extend the finger. Prepare the lecture. Tweak the speck. Pause. Find the beam. Where is the self that needs to be right to keep breathing? There. Drop it. One breath. Father, how do you see? Now look again. If there is a word to speak, it will come without edge, and it will fit like a key, not like a crowbar. Often there will be no word, just a seeing that unhooks the tangle. And if a correction is needed, it will be precise, without poison. Neither do I condemn thee. Go. Guidance always gives a go. Guesswork gives a glare. Hear the paradox that sets us free. When I refuse to judge, I do not become passive. I become accurate. When I defend the judging self, I do not become strong. I become blind. Jesus did not say, forget your brother's speck. He said, first remove the beam. Sequence is salvation. The world does not need more busy tweezers in dim rooms. It needs eyes, cleared by surrender, insulated by impersonal love, steady enough to see the Christ where a case once stood. Judge not first, and then you shall see. And when you see, you will find that most specks vanish in the light, and the few that remain are lifted, not pride, by a word that did not begin in you. My sheep hear my voice, and they follow me. Not my judges fix specks. My sheep see, and while they see, love works. All right, field notes, because if this is only poetry, it will float up and leave you gasping. First, the room with no windows, a woman on a couch, a diagnosis sitting on the coffee table like a loud guest that nobody invited. I did what you will do if you are honest. I reached for the gavel against the disease, and without noticing, against the dear one who wore its costume. The mind wrote its brief. This is wrong. This is bad. Attack. And then the practice we have been speaking became a hand on my wrist. Judge not. Not the person, not the condition, not even the picture. Neither do I condemn thee. I heard not to excuse, but to behold. I let the prosecutor sit down. I refuse to hate the disease, refuse to identify her with it, refuse to call reality in to testify against its own. Be still and know that I am God. The room quieted like a pond after boys stopped throwing stones. What changed? Not my face. I am not a magician with a new wand. My wand is dropping the wand. What changed was the atmosphere. The fear that had been fogging the instruments lifted. A breath came into the space that none of us had paid for. We spoke little. We listened. We let love do the looking. And lawfully, do you hear me? Not theatrically, but lawfully, the body began to answer the climate. Peace in the mind, warmth in the hands, the jagged edges in her eyes rounding into rest. The physician's work continued. Thank God for skill. Thank God for means. But the condemnation ceased, and life had room to be lawful again. Perfect love casteth out fear. And when fear left the premises, the house could pick itself up. Do you think it is the God self of us that heals by hating? Do you imagine a holy rage fixing flesh? No one. No one. Only humanhood thinks violence cures. Withheld judgment, opened a window, and life, which had been knocking politely, walked in. Second file, a concrete corridor, a key that echoes men whose names had been reduced to numbers and then to headlines. If you stare at a number long enough, you will forget to meet a person. If you read headlines too long, you will forget to ask God what he is reading. I made a vow before the first door. I will not hold any man in his crime. I will address behavior as behavior, clear as winter, clean as ice. But I will not put a soul in a jar labeled offender and screw the lid down. Judge not, condemn not, forgive. Not as leniency, as jurisdiction. Love, impersonal, insulated, sat with them. And I watched faces disentangle from masks. We did not trade sob stories. Pity is a poor currency in a hard economy. We spoke of the God self, of the Christ too large for a jumpsuit. We practiced the pause before the punch, the breath before the old program. Something happened that you can count if you like numbers. In that wing, men went home and did not circle back as often. Calls came not from the intake desk, but from kitchens, new jobs, repaired fathers, a quiet where shouting had been an heirloom. Why? Because when someone finally refuses to agree that you are your worst day, you begin to consider that God didn't agree either. If any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Not newer wallpaper on the cell, new creature. We held no verdict. And in the unoccupied bench, a strange authority sat down, clarity without contempt, consequence without curse. We set boundaries like door frames, not like guillotines, and men walked through. And the thickest folder, the one I wanted to burn once and could not, history's mailbag. I have read letters inked in the fumes of madness eras, when whole nations rehearsed a verdict and set it to marching music. Threats came because love that will not hate on command looks like treason to the frightened. Pick a side, they shouted. I did. I picked the side that refuses to mirror darkness to feel brave. I would not bless monstrosity. I would not call evil good, but I would not manufacture a righteous hate to feel alive. Resist not evil is not surrender to it. It is refusal to become it in the name of victory. We blessed enemies by not inventing them in our hearts. We prayed for those who despitefully used us. And in the strangest arithmetic, safety lived there. Doors opened in streets, others crossed. Warned not to travel, we were led to go and returned. Do you think fear builds angels around you? The angel of the Lord encampeth round about them that fear him, not them that fear men. We feared God, that is, we revered love's jurisdiction, and hatred had no key to our address. So, field notes concluded? Not till you write your own. But hear the through line. When no verdict is rendered, harmony looks for openings. Withheld judgment is not passivity. It is power that does not leak. It invites lawfulness back into bodies and back into blocks and back into headlines. It does what all gavels cannot. It turns rooms into altars where guidance speaks and things straighten because no one is shoving. Judge not first, and then you shall watch life remember how to be itself. Now that we have watched harmony slip through unlocked doors, the next question is always the same and always sensible. Are we to be doormats? No. Do not let the human self invent a caricature of love so it can keep its gavel. By their fruits ye shall know them is not an invitation to become an orchard judge. It is guidance for gardeners. We observe fruits and patterns to care for trees. We never sentence the tree's godhood. Discernment examines behavior. Judgment condemns being. One is medicine. The other is a mistake about identity. Do you think it is the God self of us that needs to condemn a soul in order to say, this behavior stops here? Do you think infinite love must hate to be clear? No one. No one. Only humanhood imagines that boundaries require a snarl. Here is our ethic in the marketplace of real hours. Do not solicit. We are not fishes with baited hooks, hustling souls into our boat. My sheep hear my voice, not my sheep answer my advertisement. But when sincerely called, when the bell is rung in truth, we answer wholly, day and night, if necessary, until harmony is restored. Why? Because we are not selling service. We are obeying. The difference is temperature again. Hustle is hot with self. Obedience is warm with God. When the 2 a.m. call comes and something in you recognizes the ring as yours, you rise. When the noon coffee invites you to parade your gifts, you smile and let it pass. Freely ye have received, freely give, not frantically, not conspicuously, freely. Now the art of no. Let your communication be, yea, yea, nay. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. A holy yes is clean. A holy no is just as clean. You do not have to attach a personality obituary to a refusal. You can end an arrangement without announcing that the other party is an arrangement worth ending. In business, we will not be renewing this contract, said without acid, is a straight line love can walk on. In the home, I love you, and I will not fund this habit, is not a judgment on a soul. It is a refusal to agree with a pattern. In ministry, I cannot meet you in that theater of drama. Come to the altar of quiet, and I will meet you there. Is a boundary that blesses both. Strong lines, no daggers. Discernment simply says, these fruits make us sick. Do not bring them to dinner. Judgment says, you are rotten. The first is truthful and tender. The second is false and cruel. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Wisdom reads patterns, late payments, late apologies, early heat, quick promises, and adjusts access. Harmlessness refuses to stab the image of God with a label. Set your gate, keep your heart. If there is repentance, gates swing. If there is repetition, gates click. No drama, no sermon at the gate, just a latch and a blessing. Go in peace. And if your yes is yes, do not dilute it with an anxious maybe. If your no is no, do not perfume it with hints that will be cashed as credit. Test this in a small theater where we all get dizzy. The chronic borrower, the last-minute demander, the lovable hurricane who arrives with needs and confetti. The prosecutor in you sharpens a speech. Drop it. Then ask, Father, how do you see? Guidance may lead you to give once with clarity and then close the account. Such as I have, give I thee, not such as you expect. You might offer a ride and not a loan, a meal and not an excuse to avoid repentance, silence and not another hour of rehearsal. Boundaries are not punishments. They are channels. They keep the river in the bed where it blesses the farms and does not drown the town. And in the healing practice, hear this, never solicit. But when the sincere knock arrives, do not time God with a kitchen clock. Sit, stay, see until peace is felt, then stop. Do you see the rhythm? We are not stingy with attention, we are exact with assignment. We do not condemn, we do not collude. We stand without a gavel and speak without a wobble. Outwardly cold-blooded to tantrums, inwardly overheated with love for the Christ, standing even now in every costume. Judge not does not erase ethics, it refines them. It gives you a spine without a spike, a voice without a verdict. So be simple. Observe fruits. Name patterns. Keep personhood in God. Answer when called. Let silence answer when it is not yours. Say yes like a bell. Say no like a bell. And watch how clarity, stripped of condemnation, becomes mercy with edges, edges that guide, not cut, lines that free, not fence. You can set strong boundaries without condemning anyone. And when you do, you will discover that love travels straighter and farther when it no longer has to drag a courtroom behind it. Now, if you want to meet your inner judge without a robe on, follow me into the 3 rooms where he keeps his coffee mug, the mirror, the wallet, and the glowing rectangle that calls itself news. Don't worry, we will not smash any of them. We will only evict the squatter who thinks he owns them. First, the mirror. It's a tomb if you're living inside of it. It's only a body if you're outside using it as an instrument. I did not bring that today to sound clever. I brought it because some of you have been living in a mausoleum with good lighting. Do you think it is the God self of us that stares at a cheekbone and pronounces a verdict on worth? Do you think infinite love grades height, texture, gait, and glow as if the kingdom were a pageant? No one, only humanhood, gasping for identity, judges appearances as destiny. The master said, which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit unto his stature? Take the hint. We are authorized to steward function, not sentence form. Feed it, rest it, train it, wash it. Use it like the fine instrument it is. Jump in, drive your errands of love. Jump out and thank the owner. The body is a horrible home and a wonderful tool. Live in God. Tune the tool. And when pain or diagnosis knocks, and they sometimes do in our climate, do not add a second problem by condemning the first. Be not anxious for your life, what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink. Anxiety is the judge's robe. Strip it. Seek first the kingdom. Father, how do you see? Obey guidance, doctor, diet, rest. Remedy is instrument maintenance, not identity repair. Outwardly, be cold-blooded to panic. Inwardly, be overheated for the Christ of this very member. Judgment fogs the lens. Surrender clears it. Next, the wallet. God, in a playfully irresponsible generosity, gives us dollar bills to play with, not to live inside of as if green paper were oxygen, to play with, build, share, invest, mend, and sometimes release when the wind shifts. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, but lay up in heaven. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Do you think it is the God self of us that makes heroes of the rich today and saints of the poor tomorrow according to fashion? Do you think infinite love writes moral sentences by counting decimals? Only humanhood worships or despises money and then congratulates itself on spiritual insight. Money is a tool like a violin. It can play sacred music or start a bar fight, but the wood is innocent. Render unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and render unto God a heart that cannot be purchased or pawned. That means budgets without fear, generosity without applause, and restraint without stinginess. If guided, give. If guided, save. If guided, invest. If guided, forgive a debt. Never live inside the numbers as if digits could define dignity. And never indict a soul for what the balance sheet announces this morning. Judge not extends to bank statements. Wisdom adjusts access. Love guards identity. Freely ye have received, freely give. Freely, not frantically, not to buy innocence or to announce virtue. Freely, as a steward whose breath is in God, not in a ledger. Now, the rectangle that baptizes you in headlines at breakfast and again at bedtime, you already know what I will say, and you don't want me to say it. I will. Refuse outrage vending. The world has built temples to adrenaline and calls them newsrooms. Do you think it is the God self of us that scrolls for villains so we can feel saintly by comparison? Do you imagine the Christ peering over a screen, angry shopping for enemies? No one. No one. The Master said, "Take heed, therefore, how ye hear, and if thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light." A single eye cannot binge accusation and expect to see God cleanly. This is not a plea for ignorance. It is a summons to jurisdiction. Be informed, never be inflamed on purpose. Read enough to obey guidance, vote, write, show up, shelter, feed, and then put the gavel down. Pray for those who despitefully use you. Bless them that curse you. Resist not evil. Does not mean capitulation. It means you will not become the image you oppose by hating in its likeness. Turn off the sermon that fear is preaching. Turn on the sentence heaven is whispering. Keep a red letter word in your pocket where the algorithm used to sit. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth. The world gives panic trinkets. The Christ gives climate. Here is the through line. So simple it keeps winning trophies for most ignored. Non-attachment unveils and dissolves our everyday habits of judgment. Step out of the body as a house. Use it as an instrument. Step out of money as a mansion. Use it as a toolbox. Step out of the news as a mood. Use it as a bulletin board for obedience. Each time you refuse to live inside a thing, the judge loses a courthouse. Each time you breathe, Father, how do you see? Before a mirror, a purchase, or a headline, a jurisdiction changes hands. Outwardly you may look unexcited, no foam, no pitchfork, but inwardly you will be overheated with love for God and man. And then, because sequence is salvation, judge not is no longer a slogan. It is a power move, a jurisdictional shift from you to God, from verdict to vision, from noise to guidance. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Added without a gavel, without a costume, without a scroll of villains. Added because we stopped living inside the props and started living inside the presence. You want something you can carry, not just something you can admire on Sunday and misplace on Monday. Good. The kingdom rarely arrives with a marching band. It tiptoes in through small, loyal habits that outlast our moods. So let's put tools in our pockets, not to display at dinner, but to touch in the dark when the old reflexes knock. First tool, the red letters themselves. Have a red letter New Testament handy, yes, the paperback kind that can live in a pocket or a purse without filing for workers' comp. Read a few lines daily, not a binge, a sip. Let the cadence of the master retune the instrument before you play the day. Judge not, condemn not, forgive. Blessed are the merciful, the pure in heart. Resist not evil, forgive 70 times 7. 5 lines in the morning are more potent than 5 chapters once a fortnight. Let his words overwrite the retaliation reflex. the way a new operating system quietly replaces the old revengeware. At noon, another sip. At night, a closing line so sleep does not draft its own theology. Carry the book, not as a charm, but as a tuning fork. Touch it in the grocery line when the delay begins to preach. Open it in the parked car before the conversation you dread. His sentences will lend you their oxygen. Let not your heart be troubled. Try disobeying that while reading it. The letters themselves object. Second tool, the rephrase drill. I have told you before, let's twist that Bible upside down until its meaning falls into our language. Take judge not, and say it the way your nerves will understand at 4 p.m. on a Tuesday. I resign from verdicts. I behold the Christ here. I drop the badge. God keeps the bench. I am not the prosecutor of persons. I am a witness to presence. No labels, only light. I will not decide who you are. I will ask who God is. Here, write 2 or 3 that sound like you, not like a monk you pretend to be on Instagram. Put them on a card, a lock screen, the back of a bill, for 30 days, before the day begins and as it ends. Speak them aloud. The personal self thrives on inner monologues. Let the God self author a few. Set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth, and while we are at it, before my mind that loves to mutter. Rephrasing is not poetry, it is jurisdiction. The words you can say without wincing are the words that will show up when the heat rises. Third tool, the micro-ritual pause. Breathe, behold. 3 slow breaths. On the first, you drop the label you are about to paste. On the second, you ask, Father, how do you see? On the third, you consent to be guided rather than clever. Then act simply. No theatrics. If a word is given, it will fit like a key. If silence is given, it will feel like a clean yes to restraint. Practice this everywhere judgment hides in plain sight. At the mirror, in the inbox, before you reply to the text that twitches your old scar. At the red light when the driver ahead appears to be composing an opera. Before you open the news that profits from your pulse. 3 breaths. You are moving jurisdiction while everyone else thinks you are just inhaling. Make it small and make it daily. The self that wants to be spiritual in one leap is the same self that wants to keep the gavel for emergencies. Die daily, not dramatically, 3 breaths at a time, 2 lines at breakfast, 1 sentence you own when the storm tries to hire you, and watch what happens to your reflexes. The tongue that used to lunge now waits. The eye that used to search for specks now warms. The hand that used to push now points gently toward an exit from confusion. My sheep hear my voice, and they follow me. Sheep do not sprint marathons. They respond to a tone they have come to trust. Let Christ's cadence become your muscle memory. Red letters to tune. Rephrasing to translate. Pause, breathe, behold. To transfer jurisdiction in the moment it counts. Judge not first, and then guidance will not have to shout to be heard. So here we are, with the little tools rattling in our pockets and the old reflex snorting like a tired dragon that wants one more argument. Let's not argue. Let's synthesize. We have walked from Mosaic retaliation, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, ledger for ledger, to the red letter mercy that replaces accounts with guidance. Forgive 70 times 7. Resist not evil. Judge not. That is not religious embroidery. It is an operating system upgrade. We have walked from humanhood's gavel, the breathy need to decide who people are and who we are, to the God self-sight, which beholds the Christ where the costume once stole the scene. And because God plays by law, not theater, fruits appear. By their fruits ye shall know them. Which fruits? The inner spring comes back. Joy stops needing permission from the day's weather. Guidance, which used to whisper behind the noise, moves to the front of the room and speaks in sentences you can obey. Service loses its sweat and gains stamina, no pity exhaustion, no savior inflation, just steady hands that do not shake. Conflicts, which used to bloom like mold in damp corners, dry out. They still exist, but they do not escalate, because one side refuses to enlist hate for its victory. Do you think it is the God self of us that needs a courtroom in order to live bravely? Do you think heaven borrows your temper to fix earth? No one. No one. Heaven lends you vision, and vision rearranges the furniture without kicking it. The kingdom of God is within you, and when the gavel falls silent inside, that kingdom stops being a postcard and starts being climate. You will know it because you will laugh again quietly at first, like you remembered a joke from childhood that you had put in storage. You will know it because the next decision that used to take 3 days in a committee will take 3 breaths and a clean yes. You will know it because the face across from you, the one your narratives had framed, will tilt, and some light you did not turn on will be shining there. Now a vow, because sentiments wilt, but vows are trellises on which a life can grow. Hold no man in condemnation, not the one in the news whose name is a siren, not the one at the table whose fork scrapes your last nerve, not the one in the mirror who has memorized your bad paragraphs. Hold no man in condemnation. Pray for those who despitefully use you, not as a performance, but as jurisdiction. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Live outside the body and money as instruments of God. The body, use it as an automobile for love, jump in and out. Never live in its glove compartment. Money, use it like tools in a kit. Generously, wisely, never climb into the toolkit and call it home. Die daily to the manager who wants to keep the badge for emergencies. Wake into the sheep who recognizes a voice and follows it across impossible hills without a spreadsheet. If you will take this vow, I will tell you what will happen, and I tell it without romance, because romance is tired and this lives. Your authority will return, not the volume that bullies, the authority that doors recognize. My peace I give unto you. Peace is not a mood, it is a credential. Rooms will calm when you enter, because you are not carrying a jury. Children will look twice and then settle, because children can smell condemnation the way deer smell smoke. Work will clarify 1,000 options, thinning to the one assignment that has your name inked on it. And the old winds that used to knock you sideways, news cycles, family cycles, body cycles, money cycles will keep blowing. But you will no longer build your house out of weather. Whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man. The rain descended, the floods came, and it fell not. Doing them is this: lay down the gavel, lay it down in the car on the way home, lay it down in the kitchen when the late text arrives, lay it down at the bank, lay it down at the bedside, lay it down. Let's twist one more verse until it yields its jurisdiction. Judge not is not a leak you patch. It is a switch you flip. When it flips, vision speaks first, and action follows without a wobble. When it flips, not my will, but thine be done. Stop sounding tragic and start sounding like a relief you have been postponing for 20 years. When it flips, your impersonal love, which looks cold-blooded to tantrum and overheated to God, becomes your insulation for clear service. You will not beg for assignments. They will find you. You will not argue with fools. You will bless them with silence and with a gate that clicks kindly. You will not diagnose the world. You will be still enough to let God walk where your opinions used to hold a parade. So, beloved, take your pocket gospel, your rephrases, your 3 breaths, and your vow, and go live outside the props in the presence. Look for the fruits. They are the report card of heaven. And hear the benediction not from me, but from the Master himself. Let not your heart be troubled. Lay down the gavel and watch vision, guidance, and real authority return. This is the power move. Judge not first, then listen. The rest will be added.